Hi, I'm John from WorkshopAddict.com. You may have noticed in the past few years, many of the tool companies are releasing brushless versions of their tools. What's a brushless tool, you might ask? Basically what that means is the tool has a brushless motor in it versus the brushed DC motors of the other brands, or the older versions. And with that comes a little bit of a higher price tag, and the tool companies are claiming that they have more power, longer battery life, and longer tool life. You might wonder, how is this possible? Why isn't everything brushless now, if that's the case? I'm going to attempt in this video to go through and explain a brushed DC motor versus a brushless motor, tell you the advantages, disadvantages, and hopefully at the end of this video you'll have enough information to help you decide whether or not you want to buy your next tool as brushless, or whether you want to stay with the regular brushed version. Is it right for you or not? So I'm going to try to do that in this video. So right now we are going to talk about the brushed DC motors first. Brushed DC motors are named because of their use of brushes. The brushes are the way that the motor provides the coils with power. The position of the brushes on the commutator is responsible for changing the magnetic field of the two electromagnets mounted on the rotor. So how is this accomplished? The brushes are two metallic pieces that press up on the commutator like a spring. On one side they have a piece of conductive material, usually made of carbon, so it can stand up against friction. On the other side they have a pin where the power supply is applied to the motor. The brushes are pushed by spring action against the commutator. The commutator is a split metallic ring that is divided into two halves, which is also conductive and able to stand up against friction. The commutator is fixed on the shaft of the motor. Each semi-ring is connected to a coil and magnet, which is also attached to the shaft. It sends the power supplied by the brushes to the coil and magnet, creating a magnetic field. Outside of the setup there are two permanent magnets. These magnets do not rotate and always carry the same polarity. As the shaft rotates, the commutator halves will switch which brush it is in contact with, thus changing the polarity of the magnetic field. This causes it to be repelled from the permanent magnet that it is lined up with. This process will continue until the power supplied to the brushes is stopped. Now that may be more information than you needed. Basically what I want you to come away with is there's some brushes that physically touch this communicator ring, and as the shaft turns, the communicator ring turns with it, the brushes will have physical contact with that communicator ring the whole time. And when it has contact as it's spinning, there's friction. So that's the part I want you to come away with. Also, the magnets, the electromagnetic field is on the inside, where the permanent magnets are on the outside. So now let's talk about the brushless motor. The brushless motor is set up a little different. The brushless motor has the permanent magnets glued on the rotor. Outside of the permanent magnets, there is a ring of magnets where the magnetic fields are alternated between positive, neutral, and negative poles. This is controlled by an electronic sensor. The electronic sensor reads the position of the permanent magnets in order to decide which state the magnetic field should be in. Same as the brushed DC motor, the changing of the electromagnetic fields drive the shaft to rotate. So even though that description was quite a bit shorter, what I want you to come away with on that one is there's no physical contact with brushes and communicator rings. There's no friction had there. Everything's controlled by an electronic sensor. This is what controls the magnetic fields and allows the motor to go. As you can tell by the description, hopefully you noticed I didn't mention anything about friction from any physical contacts in a brushless motor. Because of that, the claims made by the tool companies of more power, longer battery life, and longer life of the tool can be explained. The power source, the battery, that power from there is going directly to the work being done by the tool, rather than part of the power going to overcome the friction of the brushed DC motor. Also, because it doesn't have to overcome that friction, batteries will last longer. And also in turn, friction causes heat. Heat's not good for motors. So your brushless drill motor should last longer than your brushed drill. Also, there's no maintenance for changing brushes. Brushes will wear out over time, and in some of the brush tools you'll have to replace them. So It should sound like a no-brainer, right? Brushless all the way. There's one catch. Brushless motors are more expensive to produce. The brushed DC motors have been around forever. Parts are very easy to find. The brushless motors, the most expensive part that I understand in this is the electronic sensor. And it also depends on what type of electronic sensor you put in. There's 3 different types. This will drive the cost of the motor. So as of now, the brushless drills, brushless tools are a little more expensive because of the technology in it. So what does that mean to you? You have to ask yourself, what do I use these tools for as an everyday use? Am I just a homeowner, a weekend warrior? I would think for contractors and people that make their living with tools, a brushless drill, a brushless multi-tool, you can get a lot more life out of it than you would a brush drill. Now, brush drills, for instance, last a real long time. I've had one now for like 14 years. It's been perfect. But if you're going to use tools every day, all the time, you might want to think about a brushless tool. If you're a weekend warrior, this might not be for you. These would work just fine. The other thing is unless you're a tool nut like myself, then you want the latest and greatest. One more advantage to the brushless drills and the brushless tools is you can take a smaller tool, like a 12-volt tool, and since more of that power is sent directly to the motor, it can perform nearly as well as an 18-volt. You can get more power out of one of the smaller voltage drills. I know I just threw a lot at you, but buying a new tool can be a little intimidating, and the more information you get, the better off you are. And hopefully this helps someone out there make up their mind on which way to go. So, I'm John from WorkshopAddict.com. Talk to you later.